Hello and welcome. You're watching WION. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. Now, after the UK banned TikTok on government devices, New Zealand has decided to implement the TikTok ban on devices issued to its members of parliament. Now, the ban, which is over cybersecurity concerns, is expected to be implemented by the end of March. Now, New Zealand has said that the decision was taken after advice from cybersecurity experts. The country's parliamentary service chief executive said that TikTok will be banned on all devices with access to the parliamentary network. He said that the ban will come into force from the 31st of March. The TikTok ban on government devices is over concerns that the app's parent company ByteDance could be giving user data such as browsing history and location to the Chinese government. The announcement from New Zealand came hours after Britain enforced a similar ban. The UK's decision to ban TikTok on government phones comes after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that he is ready to take whatever steps are necessary in order to protect the UK's security. The ban applies to work phones and other devices that are used by government ministers and civil servants.
We take the security of government devices very seriously, and we are constantly working to ensure that those devices remain as safe and secure as possible. And so, as part of that effort, I recently commissioned a review by our cybersecurity experts to assess the risks posed by certain third-party apps on government devices, and in particular, the installation and use of TikTok.
Although many have welcomed the move, the deputy leader of the Labour Party has said that the government was behind the curve.
Today's announcement, Mr Deputy Speaker, feels like closing the stable door after the horse has bolted. If the Minister was serious about overhauling security at the heart of government, why was this review limited only to the use of third-party apps on government devices? Why not a root and branch review of technology used by his colleagues? Because the reality is, this government's track record on upholding security at the heart of government is appalling.
Earlier, TikTok said that any such moves by the UK would be disappointing. According to TikTok, such moves are based on misplaced fears. The move to ban TikTok on government devices in the UK comes after similar orders were passed in the US and the EU. Last month, the US said that employees of federal agencies must delete TikTok from government phones. The European Union and Belgium also temporarily banned the app from employee phones. Now, earlier this week, Canada also joined the list and banned TikTok from government devices. TikTok says that the Biden administration has demanded the app's Chinese owners to diversify their stakes, or else TikTok could face a complete US ban. TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, has more than 100 million US users. TikTok's chief executive is due to appear before the US Congress next week. Now, last week, the White House backed a legislation to give the administration new powers to ban TikTok and other foreign-based technologies, now, if they pose national security threats.
Economy's at risk. We're going to work together to fund that.
Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Chris Lynch, who is a journalist from Christchurch in New Zealand. Hello to you, Chris. Now, TikTok being banned on government devices, what is behind this move?
Well, in a very short statement issued to media today, the Parliamentary Service Chief Executive said, on our advice, and I quote, all security experts are now telling us that Parliamentary Services has informed members and staff that the application TikTok will be removed from all devices with access, as you say, to this parliamentary network. Arrangements can be made, they said, for those who require the app to perform other democratic duties. So they're saying basically this was a security threat, as you've outlined, same security threats for Britain and the likes of the US. But what we still don't know is whether or not some of these MPs that do use TikTok will still be able to use or actively use the platforms, say for argument's sake, on their personal phones. That has not been fleshed out yet, but I would suspect that would be the case. But this decision, they say, this is from the Parliamentary Services, has been made based on, and I quote, unquote, our own experts and analysis following discussions with our colleagues across government and internationally. And based on this information, the service has been determined that the risks are not acceptable in the current New Zealand parliamentary climate.
Right, and Chris, have New Zealand MPs had much of a presence on TikTok?
Well, I was going through my phone today to find out exactly who and who wasn't on TikTok, and ironically it appears that most of the New Zealand major political parties are on TikTok, apart from the government Labour Party itself. So you do have the likes of somebody from the co-leader of the Māori Party, has a very strong personal presence on TikTok, and I've seen her videos, and I've often wondered to myself whether her material is actually appropriate as an MP. Having said that, I suppose she captures a younger market, but with how much success, who would know? But all the major political parties are on TikTok, but one has to kind of ask themselves whether, when you're watching the messages that they're putting out there, whether they're actually meaningful, engaging, or just trying to appease an audience that doesn't have much of a decent attention span. So I'm hoping they'll probably get rid of them, because I think that'll make the public discourse in this country stronger, if not better.
Right, and have we had any comment from your Prime Minister on this move as of yet?
Yes, we have. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins gave a short statement to Radio New Zealand today, saying that the way we operate in New Zealand context is very different from internationally. He did say he's not been briefed on the guidance, but he did say that our systems work slightly different to other countries. He said that the departments and agencies in New Zealand take their advice from the government Communication Security Bureau in terms of their IT and cybersecurity policies. The government doesn't actually have a blanket across the public sector approach to this, he says, which happens in other areas. But he did say that he expects other government departments, including Parliament, would consider the advice from the likes of its own security service in making those decisions. And the big question, of course, that everyone wants to know, of course, is Chris Hipkins on TikTok himself? Well, the answer is no. He was quoted earlier today as saying he's not hip and trendy.
Right. Thank you very much for being with us, Chris, for joining us with all those details coming out of New Zealand.
Nice to see you.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.